Time for the No Panic Zone. I'm Stevie Ray. I'm America's voice, a man on a mission in this new year to make this nation better, bigger, prouder, stronger. And yes, I'm proud to say that I believe in America first. Here are the three big things you need to know right now to get rolling. Number one, Amazon killing 18,000 jobs, and Alan Greenspan, the former Fed chair, says recession is coming. But don't worry, Joe Biden's doing great. Just ask him, he'll tell you. Number two, the ex-Capitol Police chief says he was kept in the dark over threats leading up to January 6th and blames Nancy Pelosi and politics for what happened that day. Not Donald Trump. Wow. We'll get to that. And number three, the fight for the gavel continues. Kevin McCarthy has thus far refused to give up even after losing 11 roll call votes to secure 218 votes to be the next Speaker of the House. There may have been movement overnight. We'll get to that. But it starts here because McCarthy is despised by members of the House Freedom Caucus who have had 20 members reject McCarthy over and over again. And right now, there doesn't appear to be a plan B, not for McCarthy or his opponents. So the question now is, where do we go from here? And can the GOP find a candidate, if it's not going to be McCarthy, that can unify the party and secure 218 votes for Speaker? If so, who would that be? And look, it really doesn't matter what the Democrats are blathering on about. There is not any pressing business that isn't getting done in Washington. The whole refrain, we have to get to work for the American people, it's nonsense. They have to get to work putting new pictures on their wall and, going to parties. That's it right now. Committee assignments don't even come for another 3 weeks. And even then, just not that big of a deal. Whatever is not getting done right now will never affect you or me. And honestly, when gas is back above $4 in the spring, and energy prices soar during the coldest part of the winter that's still coming, Americans are not going to be remembering the political theater that played out in the first part of January 2023. Trust me. Soaring inflation, eggs at $5 a dozen, and unemployment numbers that are rising because the Fed is fighting to get Joe Biden's economy back under control will be back front and center for people in this country. The wide open border and crime that continues to spiral out of control will be the things moms and dads will be talking about and thinking about. And those in traditional Democrat voting blocs will continue to leave the ever more socialist blue team in search of a new political home. And that's why Republicans, for the first time in several elections, secured not just the House of Representatives, but also took home the popular vote win by several million. That's an indication of good things to come for the red team. Pair that with a very unfavorable math, both for Joe Biden and his low approval numbers, and the number of Senate seats the Democrats will have to defend next year. And you really start to understand the arguments among Republicans about who can really lead this country out of the economic wilderness we have been abandoned in by reckless policies and politicians and feckless weasel politicians. Can Kevin McCarthy still salvage the gavel? Maybe. Like I said, there was some movement. I don't know. And if he can, will he be able to govern at all? That is a question for which there is no answer today. The Freedom Caucus, which has about 50 members in all, has clearly shown its political muscle and is more than willing to flex that muscle to get what the more conservative members want. And what they want primarily is an end to the insane spending in Washington, an end to the insane Green New Deal, and all that garbage that's hurting millions of Americans. An end to the endless flood of illegal aliens that want to turn this country into just another third world mess. An end to sending billions of dollars to shady leaders in places like Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky, the shady leader there. An end to weakness dealing with the Chinese Communist Party. An end to meddling with Iran. An end to promoting the sexualization of our children at ever younger ages. And an end to teaching those same kids that America's a rotten place. An end to the gravy train running 24 hours a day for those in Washington while America's train is getting run over a cliff. That's what they want. They also want an end to the intelligence agencies imposing the political will of the socialist Democrats on all of us by hijacking social media companies, along with nearly every major so-called news outlet in this country, to censor and silence anyone who dares to question the left-wing radical ideology. So, if this is what the left calls radical, then please count me in. And if this is what they are trying to prevent from continuing by blocking Kevin McCarthy and others bought and paid for, no matter what political party they come to represent, then count me in. And if it means finally digging into the scam run on Donald Trump and the American people by Hillary Clinton and dishonest media outlets and the likes of George Soros, then yes, count me in. And finally, if it means holding Hunter Biden and the entire content of his drug-fueled empire that is detailed in the laptop his crack-addled brain forgot to pick up, then yes, by all means, count me in. America is supposed to be a nation of laws. We don't need immigration reform. We need to enforce our immigration laws at the border starting yesterday. We don't need justice reform. We need to enforce the laws we already have on the books. We don't need more gun control laws. We need to hold those using guns illegally accountable and prosecute them to the full extent of the law. Again, if this is radical, then by God, count me in. Oh, and one more thing. If it means standing up for the national anthem and having school kids recite the Pledge of Allegiance every morning to the greatest nation ever established, then by God, yes, count me in. If this is the measure of what a radical is, then I am a radical. And damn proud of it, too, for the record. Now, Lauren Boebert says it's time to find a candidate that will be able to move Republicans forward. Listen to what she has to say.
It's time to build momentum. Many of you have said it. You see that Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes. You are understanding that he is not going to get there. We had the votes for him. I cannot produce those anymore. The colleagues that I brought with me to offer those 218 votes on the first ballot aren't there anymore. It is not happening. And as it's been said, we need to get to a point where we start evaluating what life after Kevin McCarthy looks like.
Yeah. What Kevin McCarthy looks like. Can he govern? That's the real question, because what has emerged overnight when you hear comments like that? What has emerged overnight is that there could be a deal rolling. Now, David Axelrod, I'm going to get to that after the break, by the way. David Axelrod, former chief advisor to Barack Obama, says the 21 rebel Republicans have already won. He might be right about that, because this deal that we're going to outline here in a moment might prove that. Listen to what David Axelrod had to say. Here he is.
The truth of the matter is, whether the 20 want to accept it or not, they've won.
McCarthy.
They've won. Either McCarthy becomes a neutered, powerless speaker who has a sword of Damocles over his head that could fall at any time because anybody in that body could call to vacate the chair, or someone else becomes speaker. But they have won this. I mean, the only thing that's left is for, one of them to drive out with McCarthy's car and another one to wear his coat. And I mean, he's given everything away.
Well, there's some truth to that, and maybe that's about time. Maybe that's about time. All right, we're going to talk about this deal that has emerged overnight, giving the Freedom Caucus basically everything they're asking for. One of them is questionable to me. I'll get to that after the break. Good to have you here. It's the Steve Gruber Show.